Anolti Nitsin.
Multi, how are you?
How goes your evening?
How's everything?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I mean,
A
could be
little
better.
a little under the weather, but
Could be
doing
better.
well. Doing fine.
We're a little sick.
Yeah, I've been a little bit sick too. What are you guys dealing with? Like the flu?
Strep.
Our kiddo.
Yeah, which that sucks. Hopefully it gets better. I've been drinking tea like crazy. Um, so is my wife though. So it's one of those things where if one person gets sick, everybody gets it. You know.
Yes, of course.
How have you been, TechPad, with your job? I know you just started.
Busy, but really liking it. It's good to be back in the mental health field. So I'm excited. I get my caseload tomorrow, so I get to see like who my clients are gonna be and things like that. So it's exciting.
Nice.
Yeah. So but I'm like, I don't know, I feel drained though. So like when I get home, it's getting used to that routine again of working and doing all those things, but trying to get more energized.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it takes a lot of your time away having a job, you know. You don't get to definitely do a lot of the things that you wish you had time for, because by the time you're done with it, all you want to do is just go home and, w- spend some time with the family and, have some me time. And that doesn't really give you much time for anything else.
Yeah, especially because I have to wake up early in the morning. It's like I can't stay up too late because then I have a hard time waking up. And so yeah, it like you said, it just kind of constrains the time you have after work. And so I'm just trying to adjust to that and trying to make the most out of the few hours I do have before going to bed.
Yeah. It's all about time management, and that's really hard.
Yeah, I've always struggled with that, so still in the works with that.
You're
Still
gonna master it now.
I know. So a day at a
Every now and
time.
then, I still have to take like a day to just to myself,
Yeah.
which it never turns out to be like for myself. Luckily, my daughter is already older, so I
Yeah.
don't have to be, taking care of her. I get to do things by myself. But sometimes that's needed, just to take a break and relax. That's also needed every now and then.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the weekend of being able to have a little bit more time, right, to kind of catch up with the Kalpuli stuff, like the homework and things like that, and also to kind of just rest. And hopefully we don't get the brunt of the illness. Hopefully it just kind of passes because, yeah, being sick is a bummer.
It's
Probably
not
gonna
fun at
drink
all.
some probably gonna drink some tea before bed.
What type of tea are you drinking?
The ones we have at our house right now, we have chamomile, hibiscus, and ginger with, I think it's just ginger.
With lemon
With lemon, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Try
pericon.
some mullein tea. Mullein is not that expensive. You can order it online.
Yeah, I need to
That's
buy some.
really good for your throat, especially when you have like step throat, or you know, even after you smoke or anything like that. It kind of helps you clear your throat.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna need to buy some. But we also have the pericon, so maybe make some of that tonight. Get in a tea. Our sister Pilar says she will not be able to make it tonight, so just a heads up.
Okay.
So on the screen, are you able to see the buttons to move left and right on the PowerPoint slides?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to achieve. So
That everybody has the ability to
go back and go
yeah.
forward.
Welcome, Nokni One, those that have joined us. Hope you guys have had a good week. We're just catching up. We're a little under the weather on our part, so we're just trying to feel better.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Glad to have you guys.
You can come off mute and talk if you like.
Hi.
Hi,
How are
how's
you
it going?
guys? Good. How are you?
We're just pushing through another week.
Same here. Busy week.
Obsidian Tongue Joint Part 2.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're all being patient. I know for a lot of us, Teams is a new experience, so we definitely are, patient and we understand, and so we're just getting through like the little quirks that arise sometimes. So hopefully as we go along, it gets more comfortable using the platform. But we got some good stuff tonight. We're going to be going over Kalli, which is the third energy, which is house. So that's what we're going to be covering tonight.
How have you guys been doing as far as the exercises?
Ooh, I'll take the time to share my experience. The first time that I attempted the exercises, it was very draining.
Are we talking about Kalli or
The
Yaokalli?
Yeah, got. So, here, let me.
We'll help you out. Hold on.
But so one thing I learned, and I think we spoke about it. No, it was during the last one where not everybody showed up, and so, anyways, I did the Yoyekat exercise, and if you do not protect yourself, I'm telling you, the cost of energy that the sacred energies demand is very, very high. And I did my exercises at lunch, and normally it's after a walk, and I'm fully energetic. I have a bunch of energy, like I'm super energized. But after I completed that exercise, I got to the office, and it was a draining experience. Like, I mean, draining bad. Like, I was falling asleep while taking phone calls, and so it was very, very intense. And so Lani suggested that, I use my saliva that he gifted us an obsidian necklace, and to use that as well. So I've been carrying it with me. I've used saliva to do the cross of my forehead, on the top of my head, and the back where the equilibrium sits, belly button, genitals. And the second time that I did the exercise, I felt so connected without that expense of draining all my energy. And I was able to, I don't know, I think I was able to actually communicate with Yeyekat during that moment, because there was a bunch of wind. And every time I would say, Tlasokamati Yeyekat, there would be this gust of wind that would just like pick up. And I mean, it was freaking awesome. But that was my experience.
Thanks for sharing, Nemo. Yeah, I mean, it's true. When you start doing the exercises, you do have to be careful. You have to protect yourself. You have to essentially ask permission also, be extremely respectful. These are not things to take lightly. energy is real, and anytime we work, even when we're doing the classes, this type of work drains a little bit of our energy. At times, some of the exercises that we do also empower us with a lot of energy, and it's extremely empowering to have the feeling of the opposite. No, it's in Nemo and no one. The opposite of being drained, but rather, being filled with, all of this different energy, via, a particular connection with an energy, or some exercise that you did, where you accomplished that. Is really cool, I think. But yeah, we have to make sure that we're always protecting ourselves, and we'll keep on sharing more ways to do so as we go on. Anybody else wants to share?
Sorry, I got in late. I don't know why I always have such difficulties trying to access the site, but so I don't know what you guys were really covering as far as what you guys were sharing. I apologize.
You're fine, sister. So we were just talking about, or we were just trying to share uh, anything as far as the exercises, any experiences, both positive or negative, that you might have had with any of the exercises so far. Anything you'd like to share?
I'll go ahead. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought I booted myself out again, so I was like, oh crap. Okay, go ahead.
So I haven't been able to try yet the Yaokalli one, so I'm looking forward to the weekend to have a little bit of time to try that one out. But I will say I've been working a lot with the like Sipakli one of like looking at yourself in the mirror for like 5 minutes, and just like hugging yourself, and then I say like I love you and now what to myself, like to my reflection. I feel like I've made progress because I'm starting to, I don't know, it's kind of like you get, like I get goosebumps or I get like a response. I don't obviously yet know how to interpret that. Um, but as I've been doing it the last couple of days, I get like my hairs on my arms stand up whenever I start talking to my reflection. And I've been getting really like vivid dreams when like the following day, like when I go to bed. I've been having some really random, well, they're random to me, I guess, but like very just vivid dreams. Um, and so that's my share. That's what I've been working on lately. It's just like looking at my reflection, especially working with the not judging myself, because I mean, everybody's their, what is it, harshest critic. So I've been definitely trying to like hold myself more accountable and trying not to be so tough on myself and show more self-love. And so that's what I've been working on my end.
Thanks for sharing, No It's in TechPad. No It's in Obsidian Tongue.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess, yeah, I do the mirror one a lot. But I've noticed here lately, there for a while, I had stopped dreaming altogether. I used to have very vivid dreams to where I would remember my dreams even weeks and months later. But there's still some dreams I've had years and years. I'm talking like early 20s, that I still remember to this day, as if I had it, as if I just woke up from it. But the past few months, I have struggled just sleeping, and I've stopped dreaming. Here recently, my sleep hasn't really improved, but my dreaming has come back, and I don't remember it the next day. I remember it as I wake up, and I remember it immediately after, like maybe for an hour or so, but as the day goes on, without thinking about the dream, then I eventually forget about it. So what I'm trying to work on is being more cognizant and more aware of what I'm actually dreaming, and like to try to try to remember it, like exercise my mind to where I can start remembering them again. I think the exercise that I've been working on the most, though, is what we put out in the universe comes back to us. It's not in the same form or in the same energy, but that it does come back to revisit us. And I have been very, very mindful of even just my thoughts, because thoughts lead to speech, speech leads to intent. So I try to be mindful of the things that I think, let alone the things that I say. I've fallen short of that. I've been going through some things, some real, just really bad things with my son at the moment. But in a way, if the things I hadn't gone through with him, we wouldn't be where we're at now. And I think we're actually starting that journey together now, as in reconnecting with one another and getting to know one another again. So I find it easier to center myself once again, and I'm once again concentrating on what I'm thinking and how I want to present that to the universe. So I'm always mindful of how that will come back to reflect on our family, because I feel like what we put out in the universe doesn't just affect us. It affects those who are the closest to us as well. So it may not come back, your energy may not come back to just revisit you, but what you put out there will come back to revisit those closest to you as well. So that is all.
Thank you so much for sharing, Noinitsin. Anybody else wants to share?
And for those who are, joining for the first time and you haven't seen the classes, we do have YouTube channel. I've shared the links within the chat, and I'll look for them again and share them here in the chat, in this chat on Teams. But the videos have been uploaded to YouTube, so you can go back and review them.
Tlazokamati Noinitsin. So touching on what Noinitsin was just talking about, which is you got to be aware of what it is that you put out into the universe. On this image that I think everybody has access to seeing, we see Tezcatlipoca. We all have a test. This is basically our Tezcatlipoca. We all have one. And in having one, we can see out of his mouth, there is one of the 20 tonal symbols. The one that he has is basically the flower, right? It basically represents exactly that you got to be putting out that beautiful word, that your word has to be really tactful and really beautiful, and be able to essentially help with it, right? So that is extremely, thank you for sharing, Noinitsin. I'm really happy that you're doing that, because it is basically one of those things that is extremely hard to do, but once you can start doing it, it's definitely something that it starts having an effect around not only you, but around the people, like your family, co-workers, things like that. So yeah, that's amazing. No, it's in Nemo. You want to talk to us a little bit about the image that we're seeing?
Yes, it's exactly what we were discussing, right? It's the flower that is coming out of the mouth, and this is the representation. So I'm going to go back a slide so you can see the whole image. Okay, this will be the whole image of Tezcatlipoca, including all the tonals, and there's even some inner ones that are not discussed as tonal, but they are part of us, right? The Nemotemi. And so the first one that we discuss here is the essence of that flowery word that comes out of the mouth, right? And everything that you speak should be in a flowery sense. And what do we mean by flowery? Well, flowery essentially means in the best light possible, right? We want to give the best that we can every single time that we speak. And it's not just in the sense that, oh, I'm just gonna talk you up. No, no, no. Talk yourself, right? Talk to yourself. When you talk to yourself, when you see your reflection, you shouldn't be, I'm being very judgmental of these particular parts of my body. I don't like the way my eyebrows look. I don't like my hair. I don't like my ears. None of that, right? You want to look at yourself and say, you are the best that is presented upon myself, and I love you as you are. No judgment, no bias, no opinions, just straightforward, see your reflection and fall in love with what you see. And so what comes out of the mouth should always be that best possible um, words that you can come up with, and not just in the sense that um, you're trying to, say nice things, because it's not about being nice. No, you're trying to um, every single time that you speak, you should be elevating that language, even though it's a foreign language. It may be in Spanish, it may be in English, most importantly in Nahuatl. And Nahuatl is already a language in which itself is, in when it starts to be used, is very flowery in its essence. And so um and that was my interpretation of it. Tekpat.
I like to view it as we have a choice, right? We have a choice of either giving out good medicine or trash. So we make that choice every single time we act, right, on what words we decide to release into the world. So I think it kind of speaks on that mindfulness, right? Being aware of what we're releasing, right? Because we're surrounded by energy, right? We are energy, but we also are surrounded by that. And things are cyclical, so we are under that notion, right, that what we throw out will come back. It will it will come back in a certain fashion or form, right? I also think that it ties in with I'm trying to blank. But yeah, it has to deal with like um our actions and how we choose to use our words. Our words are very powerful, right? We can manifest a lot by not only what we speak, but also by what we do. So we must be careful because words can be a dangerous thing if used inappropriately or in a negative fashion. Um, and so I think that's what I think of whenever I see like the flower, the xochitl coming out of our mouths. Is just being aware what kind of energy are we throwing out each time that we open our mouth and speak, right? And for a lot of us, we want to be those providers of good medicine, right? The positivity, the optimism, um, the positive vibrations, things of that sort. So that's what comes to mind when I see the image.
I thought you were going to use me as an example because I'm my biggest critic, my worst.
I mean, I do have to get on your case, yes. I do have to remind, I mean, not just you, but I have to remind myself at times, right, of let's not be so harsh, right? Let's not be so judgmental. I mean, we have a purpose. We are here. We have our strengths and weaknesses, but we shouldn't be feeling guilty or just punishing ourselves, right? We must take it as lessons, like as continuous growth is the way I like to see it. Is we're always learning. We should always be growing. And so we shouldn't be so tough on ourselves if we don't know something, right? It's just a new opportunity to come across the new information and just take it like that and not be so hard, like, oh, you should have known better, or why so, incapable, like whatever comes to mind. And we really are manifestors of our own energy sometimes when we speak to ourselves in such a harsh or negative tone or light.
Tlani?
Thank you so much, Lasso Kamati, Miek. I agree. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. For me, another thing that this image is representing, the Tezcatlipoca, is ourselves, right? It's also showing us all of the 20 different tonals and different energies. They are within us, and that we can essentially work on to try and take the most advantage that we can from them, and be the best that we can, be the warrior that we are meant to be, to try and reach that that balance, that pinnacle of the best person that we can all be, right? You guys can see all the 20 different tonals in different strategic places located, like Sipakli on the feet, on one of the feet, Ocelot on the other one. You guys got essentially TechPad is on right there on the middle, and Coscacuautli and all of them are basically throughout this image, basically showing us that, showing us how we basically have all of these energies within us. We just have to, learn how to use them as much as we can. I think that's one of the really, really cool things about this image. Once we start to learn about all of the philosophy behind these images, we will start to realize a lot of the symbology behind this, because of the fact that this is barely the one of the first few classes. We cannot really go into detail because a lot of this information would not make sense right now. So we would have to basically cover the rest of the energies, the tonals, before we can go back, hopefully, into this image and try and explain it much better. Anybody has any questions?
Not a question, but more so just covering from the last two classes, right? Sipatli and Yayekatl. And so, especially like this image that we're seeing right now called Malinali, it's supposed to be with two L's at the end, sorry. But Malinali is herbal medicine, right? It's that medicine that we must have in mind when, and it has to be medicine for everyone around you, right? Not just when you're thinking of yourself. It's also when you're giving advice, when you're sharing knowledge, right? But most importantly, with the exercise of Sipakli, where you're looking in the mirror, you have to give yourself medicine, right? You have to give yourself the ability to reach harmony in order for you to actually start making progress and start, moving forward. And we can't accomplish that, right? And so there's a reason why I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides covering these specific things, and it's because it already covers some of them from the class. So we're just doing a quick review, if you want to say, right? I don't know if you want to talk more about this or Tekpat.
For Malinali, I mean, just we are medicine, right? It's kind of the meaning behind this is we all have medicine within us, as well as obviously using like plants and herbs of that sort to provide medicines to ourselves. But it also speaks on the medicine that we provide to each other, right? Or to ourselves when we give each other that self-love, when we give compassion or empathy to other people or try to help we're spreading, right, medicine in different forms. And I think it just speaks a lot about our personalities as Indigenous individuals, right? Of we always cared, we always, we always paid attention to our contribution to the group, right? Of what good medicine we brought forth to contribute, right, to the overall picture of growing and developing among society. So I think it also ties in with that of we are meant to be social individuals. We are meant to seek help and advice from others, to not be afraid to be a little bit vulnerable, right, with other individuals, and to kind of be in those moments of guiding, helping, all that is medicine, right? Because the goal is to empower, to uplift, to heal individuals so that they can reach their best versions, right, of themselves, of what they were meant to achieve. So that's what Malinali really does speak to me. And so it's just to be mindful, right, that you do matter, and your input and how you approach life really does make impact on not just your own well-being, but those around you.
Claro, Kamati. For me, Malinali, Malinali is more like a weed. It's like a bad weed, really. Those weeds, they basically climb. And it does basically represent a lot of things, including medicine. We got to remember that we're medicine, right? We have the power to heal ourselves. And a lot of these exercises that we're going through are essentially that, exercises to empower ourselves in multiple different ways. So not only can we heal ourselves, but eventually, gain enough energy to where we're healing the people around us. When you're giving somebody a compliment, and you're making that person feel good, that's a form of healing, to a degree, right? You're making that person feel good about themselves, which is basically raising their energy, if you want to call it that, a little bit, by making them feel good. So that's basically that medicine that we are. Our voice is medicine. We basically have the power of making it be extremely good for people, or also really bad. We can make our word be poison as well. So yeah, that's what I would say about that, also. Do we want to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think.
So yes, it might take a little bit, but we're already there, brother. And so we're talking about also Matli next. Have you seen has it been updated on your end? Do you see the also Matli slide?
Not yet, but go ahead. I can go ahead and catch up.
Okay, so if everyone else can see also Matli, right, it's located on the shoulder near the neck or behind the neck, right? So the concept of also Matli is that it brings out the best of everyone through joy and inclusivity. Osomatli encourages everyone to live in Ashkan Wanikan, which is the here and now, and it challenges the negative and sad attitude most of us face today. So essentially, those are the positive aspects of Osomatli. Now, there are some negatives because of the very playful nature of Osomatli. We also must learn to take the time to understand when it's time to get serious. There's a time to play, and there's a time to actually get down and get serious. And some of these moments, it is time for us to get serious, especially when we're doing the exercise, right? We can't just take these and start playing around thinking that we're going to be fine. Case in point, my story where I tried the exercise of Yaokalli and I ended up getting drained of a lot of my energy, and I I mean, had I gone further, I'm pretty sure that I probably would have fell asleep at the office. And
Lesson learned. Lesson
but
learned.
yes, Brother Tlani or Tekpat? No,
You can go first.
Brother Tlani.
Tlaxcalmati, Miek. Um, to me, also Matli actually is a really cool energy. Sorry, I was actually behind on the slides. So also Matli to me represents curiosity, happiness, movement in a lot of ways. A monkey is always moving. It represents community in a lot of different ways to me. It's extremely artistic in a lot of different ways as well. It shows a lot of different. Uh, it can teach us a lot of different things about us as human beings. One of the things that I love about also Mathly is how it basically helps that specific energy, how it helps a person be more creative. The creativity that is within the monkey is extremely amazing. I mean, you start painting or you start drawing or writing a poem during these particular energies, and you basically feel it. You feel how you become more artistic in more multiple different ways. Uh, if you're working on a little project, uh, is it becomes better because you're using a lot of that energy, creativity. So that's what I would say about Osomatli. You need in TechPad?
Tlaxcalmati. Yeah, I mean, you both have, you guys have both really brought a lot of good information about Osamatli. I also see that energy as very vibrant, very positive, right? Very energetic. Um, from personal experience living with one, they like to get you out of your comfort zone. They're very visual, like they're very engaging and creative, and they see your potential before you even kind of like come across it yourself. And they do like to push you out of your comfortable limits, right? Your boundaries, because they are kind of that energetic life of the room. They want kind of that same energy matched, right? So I agree, they're very needed, right? To balance out some of the other energies that might not be so lively or energetic or optimistic. But I will note that Osomatli is very um, empowering, very encouraging, likes to kind of remind individuals and people that they can be happy, right? That they can supersede challenges, they can move past certain obstacles, um, because they see, I guess, that like optimistic side to a certain point, right? They see like there's more to life than just what you're kind of going through. And so I like to think of them as those very helpful reminders sometimes that we need of live life, right? Enjoy life. Um, trying not to have so many regrets of, oh, I wish I would have done this or I would have done that, but you never actually acted upon it. They try to encourage you to act on things, right? To make it a reality. So just a few things to add to Osamatli.
Tlaxcalmati. Next slide is Sipatli. And Brother Tony, do you want to speak on this or do you want to take charge in this one, Tekpat? Let's give you the mic.
I was like, it doesn't matter.
Go ahead, Dainitin.
All right. So this one's the one I've been working on a lot. So Sipakli, right? That's the first energy that we covered. It's on that left foot of Tezcatlipoca, right? It's to kind of symbolize that first step you take with the left foot. It can also symbolize learning, through observing and remaining silent, right? The observe, be silent without judgment, and learn. Those are some of the exercises that are related to Sipakli. It's that first step in the internal battle, right? The first step in harmonizing with the other you. Those are the first initial things that you have to do, right? Within this journey of self-discovery, of learning, is reconnect with the other you, right? Learn who you are in all facets and, areas of yourself. And I think it teaches us a very important lesson, one that a lot of us have disconnected from, either through just life in general, through the upbringing that we kind of had. But a lot of us are disconnected. We kind of fear or, don't really want to get to know ourselves for X amount of reasons. But I think Sipakli, right, the crocodile, it's a reminder to start, right? Take that first step. Don't be afraid, because the more connected, right, we become with our other self, that harmony grows and you become whole, right? And you can do a lot when you are a whole person versus when you are kind of broken or just disconnected in certain parts and you just don't understand yourself in a way. So that's Sipakli. Yeah, go ahead, Brother Atlan.
So Sipakli is a really interesting tonal. It's the crocodile. A lot of people also consider it the dragon, which is also obviously extremely important to multiple different cultures. It goes to show a lot about the human mind, going back, to the beginning of us. It's basically the beginning. When paying attention to the image, we notice it doesn't have the lower jaw. That's essential. The meaning behind that is basically because it's supposed to have one of the lower jaw in the underworld, right? It's basically half alive and half ethereal, right? The going from the spirit to the light, to life, or what we know as life. An extremely important point the Noinitsin Tekpat made is we have to be able to take the first step. That's basically what it is showing us on this image, right? That we have to take that first step. And the first step is empowering ourselves, healing ourselves, learning as much as we can ourselves, and be able to take all of these tools, right, that we are provided with, and use them to the best of our advantage to become the best that we can be. We all have the potential to use all of these different symbols. We will learn how to read the tonal of everyone. So part of the classes will be that, learning how to read somebody's energy, read their tonal and nawal. And once we go into that, we will realize all of the different information and powerful concepts behind these things, as as they are part of everyone's life. But yeah, we have to be able to take that first step. It's extremely important to be able to confront ourselves and essentially be best friends with ourselves and empower ourselves. Tlaso Kamati. Go ahead, Noenitsin.
So Sipakli, right? The very first step in getting to know the other you, getting to harmonize with the other you. And it's indicated in the image. If you look closely at the eye has half red, right? That red part of the eye is that ability to see in the Mictlampa, right? The ethereal realm, the dream realm. And we all have this capability. We all have this ability to view into this world. The thing is, we had to take steps to be able to get there, right? And so it's important for us to understand that the overall concept that we're trying to attain here is not just the fundamentals, but it's to get you prepared for exactly just that. And the disclaimer that we always state is always come with an open mind, because some of the information that you attain here may not make sense, right? But, excuse me, but if we take the time to do the exercises and practice and learn the true essence of what is being disseminated here, you are then going to start understanding that there's more to this world than just the physical one, because we've been bred into a world of consumption and pleasing the physical self, that you don't even realize there is an ethereal you. Okay, and so this is essentially just that very initial step that we're going to take to get through understanding. And what's the best way to understand? It's to, observe in silence and, learn.
And just to be also, just real quick, is just to be open-minded, right? To not shy away just from something that might be new or just unfamiliar, right? A lot of these things are going to be new. A lot of this information that you stumble upon through these classes, right? It's going to, some material will rattle you, some material will just, shock you. Other things will make sense, right? Like you've done it without even knowing you were doing it, right? Like some of our siblings have already shared. But I think the important thing is just to always be open-minded, right? To not revert to our habit of fearing, because that's something that a very effective tool that has been implemented in our society is to make people fearful, right? So that they can limit themselves and they don't go past a certain point. But here it's about growth, right? Pushing ourselves in healthy limits, right? In healthy paces, so that we can achieve what we're trying to look for. So just that reminder for everybody.
Then on the next slide, slide number 6, we see ocelot. I was going to say Osumatli again. Ocelot, okay? And ocelot's located on the right foot, and you can see that there's like a transformation, a transmutation of that foot, and it doesn't look like an actual foot, but I'll let Brother Atlani get in more into this.
Tlazo Kamati, Nick. So ocelot on the right foot is basically showing us a lot of things. The duality is one of them. I don't know how many people are familiar with the story of how Tezcatlipoca lost his food. But it was basically an offering, right? I'll share the story on the WhatsApp on the group. But it's basically talking to us about the duality that we have. The ocelot represents the warrior, right? It represents a lot of different things, but in this particular aspect is representing the warrior. Is telling us how it basically reflects the duality that we are, right? So it's telling us that although we are now physical, we also have an ethereal side, right? That's essentially what the Nahual is basically our other self, our high self. That's the person that we wanna be able to dominate, make best friends with, be able to have a good relationship with, to be able to call it by the name that hopefully we have already assigned to him or to it or to her, whatever you feel that it is. But essentially, then the ocelot is going to be representing the Nahual. the warrior within us, and the warrior that we can become, the warrior that we are, the warrior of us that essentially is gonna confront all of our fears, right, face to face, and essentially use those fears to our own advantage. Um, we got to be able to overcome a lot of fears and a lot of different things that society has uh, made us believe, right? We are, although we don't believe so, we are still conditioned in a lot of different ways. I catch myself being conditioned all the time. So one of the things that we have to do is try to wake up to a lot of the different ideas that our ancestors were able to uncover, and it took them centuries, or if not millennia, to do so. And be aware that there's things within us that, although we've felt, we never really confronted. And that's essentially one of the things that Kalli is, right? Which is what this class tonight is about. Ourselves, our bodies, what we have within us. And the Ocelot is a really good representation of it. Tlazokamati, no Nitzen?
You did such a such a great job. I mean, yeah, I guess like our usual, right? You took all the words. No, I mean, very well articulated, very well represented. Yeah, I mean, just I guess to add, it's just for me, what it speaks to, right, especially is that last bullet point of like conquering and facing those fears and insecurities. I mean, I think many of us can relate, right, to that point. We have a lot, that internal battle, right, within ourselves. That is like one of the strongest and most important battles to overcome, is getting past that point, right? Not seeing ourselves in that narrowed viewpoint or scope, right? To expand it, to see more of what we're capable of, right? We've done a lot of harm to ourselves by applying guilt, shame, just a lot of negative emotions when it comes to like seeing ourselves in our reflections and being, disgusted or not liking what we see, right? And so with Ocelot, it's just that constant reminder that you cannot truly make impact anywhere else, right? Until you make impact within yourself, right? Until you overcome some of those challenges that tear you apart internally. Our fears, our insecurities, they're meant to be overcome, right? They're not meant to cast a shadow over ourselves that, and just never supersede. A lot of these things were created ourselves, right? We kind of instilled them there, right? And so just like the prior slide, right, with Sipakli, we can undo a lot of this, right? We have the capability, as long as we, gain knowledge and we gain practice and work towards that goal, right? We can overcome it. The tools are within ourselves, is what, the biggest message is that those challenges, those obstacles, no matter how overwhelming or big or just crazy they might seem, there is a strategy to overcome it, right? There is something that can be done, and we can heal those wounds or that, those parts of ourselves so that we can become whole again, right? That's essentially like the point of everything, is for us to rebuild ourselves, right? To strengthen ourselves within so that we can be those powerful energies that we were meant to be, but maybe kind of got distracted along the way because of life and other experiences.
Tlazokamati, Nagnitzin, Atlani, and Tekpat for sharing very insightful information. One thing that we also understand is that Nawal is not just, a companion, the higher self, but it's also the individual who has not subliminal, but a vast amount of knowledge that they can interact with their environment or the animals, and in some instances even become the animals themselves. And so it's the person who has the ability to perceive in multiple perspectives, in the perspective of the human body, in the perspective of the ethereal, in the perspective of the plants and the trees, in the perspective of the birds and the four-legged animals, right? And so, and not just that, but also butterflies. I mean, you name it. The the connection is unfathomable. You just cannot perceive the level of connection, because we were just talking about the things that are in front of us here on Earth, right? There's also things that are not of Earth that we cannot see, and it goes to a point where they had to create myths about that essence. And so, but here you get the raw material, the raw data, and that is exactly, Ocelot is ultimately your ability to supersede the fears, the trauma, the insecurities that come with all of that, right? Because before the invaders came into this part of the world, fear wasn't a construct. It was embedded into our very being as a form and a method of control. And so once they lose that, I mean, once you lose that fear, you're going to understand a part of you, and you're going to see yourself in a different perspective that nobody will ever be able to match. And so it's important for you to get to that point. And so let's get into the next slide that talks about Mikisli. Technically, this is not just on the left hand, right? It's a set of like 4 or 5 different tonales, right? That includes the arrows, it includes Coscacuatli, but we focus on Mikisli, and Mikisli means death. Well, I'll let Brother Atlani explain. It's not death in like the negative sense, but Brother Atlani, you can enlighten us.
So Mikisli, the concept of death, right? It wasn't the same concept that we have in the Western thinking. For our ancestors, death really was just a transition. It was leaving your Kalli, your body, right? Leaving it behind. They understood essentially that there was, the life is essentially that, different cycles, right? And they understood that from nature, by observing nature, and by observing and doing a lot of the different exercises they were doing. They understood what Mictlampa was, right? They understood that you could visit places in your dreams during meditations and during multiple different aspects of consciousness. They understood that they could do that with sacred plants. So they were aware of a lot of different things that we don't give credit for. But the extremely important thing about Mikisli, I think, is that it is basically just a concept that we don't understand properly in the Western world. But death was actually embraced because it basically meant that you were transcending into a different reality where you were no longer held in a way by your body. Although we want to obviously take full care of our body and make sure that that is the best that it can be, our ancestors didn't see death as something to be feared. because they understood it to be that, just essentially transcending one state and moving into another. No, Nitzin?
Sorry, I'm all trying to think. What to add? Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, so it's important, right, to disassociate or move away from the very negative definition that I guess many people have when it comes to death. Like our brother Atlani has mentioned, right? It's not an endpoint, right? It's not like that's like the final, your final stopping point. Nothing happens, nothing, on the contrary, right? It's an area that isn't very well understood, right? Like we do have some information, but the ones that really do understand, right, Mikitsli, are the Nawal, right? Those that have the higher self, the ones that attain that higher wisdom. Those are things to strive for because they have an understanding of, kind of that realm of what happened. But I see it as a transition, right? We aren't meant to be here permanently. It was like if you want to view it as like a transition, right? It's just a point, you live your life here and then we move on to to the next step. And something I find very interesting is there is communication that can be had, right, with the realm of Miklampa, of the afterlife. I think I find it really interesting that you can still achieve communication, and it's like a dual, like, it's not just a one direction, like where you're trying to communicate with that side. It's you can achieve messages, right? You can get things directed your way from that realm. And a lot of the times you see that happening, like when you go to the land of dreams, right? Miklampa. You can kind of achieve those connections sometimes of seeing your deceased ones, right? Or getting messages in different shapes. When you go to that, what do they call it? The little death, right? Every time you go to sleep, you're you're experiencing that little death, right? But then you wake up, and then you go about your life. So that was just something that came to mind. Was it's not permanent, right? There's processes, there's stages to it, and it shouldn't be seen as a negative, something negative. It's just a process of life, a cycle that happens.
Yes, it's like everyone has said, it's a cyclical understanding of life, right? Death is not the end all be all like Western society has made us to believe, and then after that we go to heaven, right? Because that's not the case. When we talk about understanding, unraveling what this concept is and understanding it, we're talking about understanding the different levels that exist within that, right? And quantum science, modern quantum science has already taught us and showed us that we perceive in 11 dimensions, which means that there is, yes, did they believe in the concept of reincarnation? Yes, so reincarnation in the sense of different meanings, right? And we'll get into this further down in the classes, but yes, there is a way for individuals like the warriors would reincarnate as the hummingbird, right? And so there's different levels of reincarnation that we're talking about. Correct. Miklampa is the realm of dream. It's the realm where essentially you're navigating Miklampa to reach the gateway, right, to enter into your forever afterlife, whether that be through reincarnation or whether that be through you finally accomplished your goal that you were supposed to accomplish, and now you sit within the astral realm, right? And so But again, that's further down the road. What I was talking about is quantum science has shown us that we humans perceive in the 11 dimensions, and this is knowledge that was already attained because we understood there was 11 levels of quote unquote heaven, right? And then 9 levels of quote unquote hell. And I'm using the Western perception of this so you can understand, but it's that duality, right, of the above and below. And so um, it takes us uh, it takes us some time to comprehend, especially with the fact that we grew up with the Western construct of what is death and what we are supposed to do to attain a happy afterlife, right? And so they don't they don't go deep diving into what needs to be done, right? They just expect you to follow a certain book to the T, and then if the being that they worship is in fact the sayer of all the things that you did was good enough, then you'd enter into that. But for us, it's the work that you do, right? Because not just what you do here, but when you're no longer part of this realm and you travel there and you become there, that part of that afterlife, there's levels that you have to go through and navigate through and battles that you have to go through even there to reach that gate, that final door to the entryway to your end goal, right? And so didn't want to get too much into that, but just to give a quick overview of what exactly that meant. And it's pretty complex, as it took me quite some time to just be able to go over the high level information.
So yeah, just get excited. We will be touching on the cosmological, topics, right, of discussion. There's plenty to unravel. But right now, our focus, right, is to understand these 20 energies. So
Not
that
just yet, but
no, well, no,
yes,
like I'm just
yes.
letting them know, like so they can prepare themselves, right?
Yes.
We are going to start right with the 20 energies, right? So that we can get a kind of ground foundation, kind of get our feet wet with the material. But yes, get excited. There will be plenty of other topics and conversations that deal with the language, with cosmology, mythology, all of those good things. So
let's get into the premise of the actual class, right? Now that we gave you the overview of the last two and a little bit of some extra, we get into this understanding of Temachtilistli, right? And so, Brother Tlani, I don't know if you want to lead.
Sure. So Temachtilistli, foreshadowing or prediction. This is something that we all can do. It's something that we can essentially develop. We already have it. I think I don't remember if it was Noinitzing Obsidian Tongue the other day was mentioning how sometimes you think about somebody calling somebody or talking to somebody, and they call you right away, right? Uh, that's essentially that. It's essentially it basically shows you little things like that, right? But you can do it way better. Our ancestors were aware of this. The elders were aware of this, and they were worked on expanding it as much as they could within their life. Uh, we have to learn how to be able to listen to our body. Our body tells us a lot of different things. It tells us when there's danger. It tells us where something is not right in a particular area. It can read the energy around us. We are energy, so everything around us is energy. So whenever something is off, our body will tell us, right? And I'm sure that a lot of us have felt that before. Uh, so those are little things that we will develop. Another thing, one of the bullet points here talks about things that it will allow for us to do, like being able to predict the weather by just looking at the clouds that's true. I mean, I'm in Colorado, and whenever I see some of these orange sunsets, the red ones, that turns into cold weather right away. Uh, I am in a little bit more advanced class where we are basically working with energies with nature. So we're working and doing some of those advanced exercises now that essentially are touching on this exactly, right? The fact that we have to be able to develop our capabilities to connect with nature. That's a real thing. Our ancestors were aware that we could basically connect with clouds, connect with rain, connect with the elements. So yeah, that's what I would say about this. Go ahead, Noinitzin.
So it also helps us understand the action of not just prediction, but foreshadowing, right? Foreshadowing allows us to see momentous events before they even happen. And so examples can be that you gather information when you get to a certain point of being able to traverse Mictlampa and actually have control of yourself. You will then be able to get data and information to get the ability to see something that's going to happen in the future, right? For example, uh, like when who was it? Netzahualcoyotl, who saw the Spanish coming in before they even arrived. And so you get a lot of data and information from the dream realm. It's whether or not you have prepared yourself when you wake up to remember that information. That's why it's important for us to write down what we dream about so that you can go back to it and see that information, and then you start making those connections so that you can, definitely read the dreams. And so very important messages are given to us within the dream realm. And so, yes, make sure that if you are the writing type, to make sure you write down your dreams when you wake up. Like that.
Yeah, I need to do better on that. I need to have a notepad by my bed. I always have those good dreams and then I wake up and I'm like, I don't remember. But yes, just some really good examples that have been said on the comments, right? Which yes, it ties in is yes, you can smell rain before it arrives, right? You can feel that air, the change in temperature of the air right before the storm. All those things, yes, are tying into what we're talking about of foreshadowing or predicting events before they occur. I know, where we live, I experience that a lot, right? You can smell the change in the weather that's about to happen, right? You can kind of feel the shifts in wind and things of that form that are telling you that there's a storm coming, that rain's approaching, or in certain parts, not here very often, right? But when there's snow or hail or things of that. And so obviously the more practice you apply to it, the more in tune you will be to these connections. And something very important also to note about the messages that we receive during our dreams, it won't always be crystal clear, right? It's not always going to be given to you as you're expecting it to be given. A lot of the times in your dreams, you receive messages kind of in a way of encoded, right? Or in a different style that you're just unfamiliar with, right? Or you just don't understand it at that point. And so I think that's why it's important to, keep practicing, right? Keep trying to understand, keep trying to gain knowledge and information. Because I know for a lot of us, yeah, we do receive a lot of messages in our dreams. We might just not be aware or acknowledge it to a certain extent because we might not understand it. We might dismiss something very important just because we didn't know that was important, right? Until somebody makes you aware that could have been a possible message, that could have been something. I guess we can go to the next slide.
which is essentially the overall topic, right? Talking about Kalli, which is house. Okay, it's the third sign, day sign of the Tonalpohualli, or the day sign calendar, right? And so let's get into it. Man, I wish Pilar was here because she does very good with these.
So real quick before we dive into this good amount of information, right? Just some key information. So Kalli is house, right? So it's not necessarily like the house you live in, right? It's more speaking about yourself, the body that you currently are residing in, right? That your spirit is residing within. That is kind of more of what we're touching on when we're talking about Kalli, right? It's protecting that house, right? What is keeping you, here, protected, energized, whatever it is that you are acting upon, right? But it's important to note that Kalli, when we're speaking of Kalli, in this context, it's talking about your body. And we'll get into the future in the next slides, but just wanted to kind of make that clarification that it's not an actual. That is so
It's
small.
already there. Yes. So the house is a symbol that alludes to several things, starting with the physical body, which is the house where we live. Obviously, it also refers to the home with four walls and a roof that shelter us. Both contexts provide opportunities for reflection and work. Kalli, as an abstract symbol, refers to the internal world, the mental and the emotional parts of us, that which happens within ourselves. Therefore, it indicates introspection and a journey through a symbolic world. Some day counters said that it is a favorable time for meditation, psychotherapy, and everything that helps us to move the internal structures. Kalli also alludes to the qualities of protection, security, and rest because that is the function of the house as a dwelling. And in this sense, we like to remember a symbolism that we once heard. Your house is your reflection, said a certain author. Does disorder or lack of hygiene reign in it? It could be a symptom that your person is also untidy and needs to clean parts of itself. On certain occasions, when referring to this sign, we also speak of meaning that involves the lineage of people and even the reproductive function, particularly the woman's uterus, which indeed is a house that generates and harbors life. See if I can increase. No, that's just font size.
It's
There we
fine.
go. Okay.
No, yeah, it's fine. So yeah, that's kind of an explanation, right, of Kalli. Oh, you want to read the whole thing?
Yes.
Go forward.
Okay.
I mean,
For the Mayas, the Nahual Akbal equivalent of Kalli has sometimes been translated as night, but a deeper approach speaks of dawn and twilight, sunrise and sunset, and speaks of matters of renewal and hope, as well as the action of illuminating the dark. It is said to be a good time to do things with transparency and clarity, to ask for days of peace for our people, to discover things that are hidden, and to ask for protection. People born in the time of the house are said to be analytical, homely, leisurely, protective. Their negative aspects include the transgression of limits, and if they are poorly balanced, they can be hermits with little ability to deal with people. Brother Atlani?
No need Tepak. Can you do the next one, please?
for sure. All right, so Kalli, right? The house, the one that joins, protects, safeguards. This person in harmony has the ability to protect all those around them, to help, to feel great, unconditional love, and share without problem. Is a homebody, detail-oriented person, is the one who manages to bring together others for the realization of something in common. We emphasize harmony because it's very important to realize the emotion that generates us, wanting to help, protect, and give love. Because when things are done without measuring consequences, without being aware of the repercussions, we will be boycotting ourselves because we fall in excess of giving and we begin to suffer. Because the others who did not even ask for my help do not return the favor, or do not even thank me for what we give them. So it is necessary to wait until they ask us for support to give it, and then they do to evaluate if I can or learn to say no. Meanwhile, analyze what I am feeling. Is it anxiety because I see the other person's problems, or is it sadness, uneasiness, pain? Any of these and more are the emotions that we must recognize to work them, to be able to calm down or calm while the person decides to ask for my support. If he or she thinks it's necessary, if not, then I will continue working on my emotions to let them go and continue living my life in a harmonious way.
So on this, I wanna touch on a couple of things. It's basically talking to us also on how we shouldn't be taking on other people's problems without them asking for help. A lot of times our body reacts in a way where we want to be taking care of everybody, right? And it's not our job to do that. And although a lot of us are empathetic to other people's suffering, a lot of times it's not our place to actually offer help without that help being asked for, because it's not our fight, it's not our battle to fight, and we shouldn't be interfering on other people journey or path. And as empaths, we got to make sure that we're not taking on somebody else's energy that we don't own. We have to, I mean, obviously we want to help, right? Especially when somebody's is in real trouble. But if we just see somebody going through a particular problem, it is not, we got to realize it is not our problem, although we feel it, because we can feel things like that. So that's what one of the things that I wanted to say. Another thing that I wanted to say is one of the ways that we can try and remember our dreams as much as we can is when we wake up first thing in the morning, don't move. When you wake up, just stay still for as long as you can. That basically allows for you to gather all of that energy from when you were sleeping and actually connect with it, which way better, allowing for you to actually recall your dreams, right? If you wake up and start moving around, you're basically moving your own energy, which kind of disrupts you being able to connect with your dreams. So that's one of the exercises that I try to do to remember my dreams as much as I can, and it works. So I wanted to share that with you guys also. Plaza Kamati. No anything?
So with any type of energy, right, which I'm going to go ahead and address a question or a comment that was made, right? The whole concept of becoming a hermit is because, and this goes with any energy, right? If you're not properly harmonized, you have positive and negative aspects to yourself, right? But those negative aspects become a little more intensified or problematic if you're not harmonized within yourself. So, for example, with the Kalli situation, they are great helpers, right? They are very engaging with other people. But if they themselves are not harmonized, the reason they become hermits and they avoid going out, right, outside of their house or interacting with people is because they don't have that harmony within, right? There's some work that needs to be done internally for them to truly thrive within their energy that they are, which is supposed to be protectors. They're engaging with other people because they like to provide that assistance and help. And like Brother Atlani has perfectly mentioned, right? You only do so ideally when they ask you, right? You don't take on too much on your plate, because then you're just causing harm to yourself by adding stress or adding that extra, that added stress, because you're taking on other people's problems, which is not the point of being a helper. The point of helping someone is to offer that help, to extend that help, but you're also not trying to sacrifice yourself in trying to do so, right? So you still have to maintain your your well-being, and your you still need to thrive within yourself, right? Before trying to take on anybody else's challenges. Got anything to add about that?
You all took the words.
Good. It was about our turn.
Yes, I mean, it's not it's not really something that is wrong with you, Obsidian. It's something that you haven't understood that it is something to overcome, right? Because yes, most of us are bred into this uh, Judeo-Christian belief that I must be self-sustaining, right? I must be able to independently, without depending on others and without the help of others, do things on my own, right? And so you get into this construct of existing on by yourself, right? And you every time you ask for help, it seems that the call goes unanswered, and then you feel rejected, and so you go back and you go into this hermit-like state where you get back into your shell and you seek that protection from the house, right? And what essentially it transcends to is the fact that that is your protection, that is your house, and it is normal, right? It is okay to retreat when you feel overwhelmed or when you feel the environment around you collapsing, all four walls getting smaller, right? But you also, like when we saw the ocelot, right? You must learn to overcome that. You must take small steps to get to the next phase, get to the next point where that's not the issue, right? It's not where, yes, it's okay to be okay with being alone. But once you have harmonized, you're essentially going to need to be with other people, right? You're essentially going to move to the next phase, which is what? Community, right? And in community, what is it that you have to do? Well, you have to do work for the community. And what we're taught in this Western perspective is working in groups, you're going to be using your skill sets and abilities to step over others and put yourself in the best position, right? This is not the case because we understand that the concept of getting wealth and riches from the community is going to come from the community, and the members within that community are going to dictate, yes, you've done this work, you deserve this, right? It's not, I did all this work and I deserve this, because it's the opposite of that construct. And so Kalli essentially is that internal, external, and the physical, right? What I mean by that? Well, it's your mind, body, right? The physical body, the internal is your mind, and the external being the physical house. So if we don't learn to keep that clean and we learn to keep garbage within that and what's it called, hoard, and we learn to hoard, that's essentially garbage, then you have a bunch of things in your house that are not necessary and useful to you, and it's an unhealthy thing for us to exist in. So
it's also important not to get discouraged. I mean, it's hard. It's easier said than done, especially when you're surrounded by unreliable individuals or people that have, caused harm in some shape or form, right, within your home, within your surroundings. And it's normal to want to kind of distance and obviously disconnect, right, sever that relationship or that connection. But it's important to not group everybody as the same, right? And I know it's difficult when a lot of people practice the same habits, practice the same patterns, and then you you kind of formulate in your head like it's just going to happen the same way because that's the way it's always been, right? We're here to grow, right? We're here to learn. And one of the biggest teachings and lessons within our, what we're trying to establish here, right, is we don't know everything, right? We haven't been shown everything that is pretty much around us. We must not fall back to old habits because that is our comfort. I mean, it's very easy. I mean, we've all been there where we revert back, right? We take steps backwards instead of going, forward sometimes. But we have to, as tough as it is, we have to push through. And I mean, everybody does that at their own pace, whether or not they choose to do so. But don't get discouraged just because a multitude of individuals have let you down, or a multitude of individuals have not been the help, or not been the support that you kind of needed, right? In time, you'll find the correct individuals. You'll find the correct established community at some point. So it's just important not to lose sight of that, especially when, a lot of the time we get surrounded by a lot of just patterns of, this isn't working. You start to question, am I the problem? Is this why, things are not playing out? So I mean, I've had conversations, right? We've had conversations of, a lot of us don't have patience as our strong suit. And that's one of the biggest teachings in these lessons, in these classes, is day by day. You got to work on the patience because there's a multitude of information waiting for us. We just have to be patient and take those steps forward. And eventually we'll be more knowledgeable. We'll be more insightful. We'll have a change of perspective. And some of these things will not be as debilitating or troubling, because we'll surpass that level, right? We'll surpass that problem. So just some words of encouragement, because I know a lot of us, we've been through crap, and it's easy to kind of
which brings the point that we must protect ourselves, right? Because no one else will. Not your spouse, not your children, not your housemates or your best friends. It's going to be us. So that responsibility will fall on us to protect ourselves, right? But Atlani?
I agree. I mean, it really is up to us to protect ourselves, teach ourselves. We gotta be patient with ourselves, but at the same time, we also have to push ourselves to learn, right? We cannot get stuck. We cannot stall. If we, become stuck in a particular situation, we got to remember that we got to move. If we get stuck and we don't move, that's really just gonna take us to a worse place. So yeah, you want to go ahead and read the next slide, Maynitsin?
Of course, Tehuatzin, Ninehuatzin, Tosepan, Timotlapiasque, Tosepan, Te, Necnenisque, Ken Seotli, Ken Seatentli, Ken Semochtli, Nochipa, Tosepan. You are me, and together we will protect ourselves with one path, like a river, like a cloud. Sorry, Takpat is taking her medicine, and I pointed to her to say, but essentially okay, so contextualizing, right? This is essentially like a little saying, prayer, plegaria, that you can say to yourself, right? To the other you. You are me. And in harmonizing together, we will protect ourselves, right? And we can only protect ourselves with one path, right? The moment that you have a fork in the road, there's going to be confusion. There's going to be divisiveness. Why? Because you're going to want to go right, and the other you's going to want to go left. And what is it called? Indecision is unhealthy. It's not becoming of us. It's not something that is part of us. indecision is actually a bad thing. So we must focus on one path, right? Just like the river. The river creates its own path. It's not linear. We've seen it, you know, what's the term when it like snakes around? Anyways, you've seen it snake around objects. You've seen it break rock and carve into rock. I mean, you've seen the power of water when once it follows a specific path. You've seen the power of stagnancy when water is no longer moving. It becomes unhealthy water, right? Same thing with clouds. When clouds are moving, they're picking up water from certain parts of the world and bringing water to other parts. Clouds that are stagnant dissolve and go away. So that's essentially what we're trying to portray here.
The you and me part, right? We're in this together. It's you speaking to the other you, right? Your duality. You have duality within you, right? There's you, and then there's your the other you, right? And it's important to note that you're never alone. Yes, you might not always agree, or you may not always be on the same page, but you must work to get to that point, right? To harmonize with one another so that you can achieve that common goal, which is to elevate, to empower yourself, to get yourself to that better version of what you're envisioning. And it's, yeah, I mean, it's just that reminder for yourself of you're not in it alone. You have literally the other part of you that's there. You might not know how to speak to it or understand it all the time, but you will eventually achieve that, and you can learn how to work together instead of working against each other, or trying to tear one another right down. And so it's, you know, it's both of you navigating this course of life, right? And like Nemo has pointed out, right, just like the river, nothing gets in the way of a river. You can put rocks, you can put other things in its path. It will still find a way to get past it, to move around, or to get past that obstacle that you've placed in front of it. So it's that metaphor, right? That imagery for yourself of don't let anything stop stop you, both of you, right? From achieving that goal. Challenges, obstacles will arise, but it's nothing that you can't overcome. And especially if you're hand in hand or shoulder to shoulder with that other part of you, you're a strong entity. You can achieve it. Brother Atlani?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's essentially connecting with yourself. It's talking about how you should be able to walk with yourself one path without fighting yourself, right? Making friends with yourself to be able to walk a path that is gonna be way easier. So yeah, I believe that's essentially what that plegaria is telling us. Do we want to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, let me go
And
ahead
would
and
you like to read it there, Noinitsi Nemo?
so he stepped aside to do dad duties. So I'll go ahead and read it for now.
Okay.
All right, so I'll do my best. Still learning Nahuatl. Tikla piasque. We will protect. And so these are some sayings, right? The kenon tikmaka, totlakayo ken tochan ken teocalli. How and what do we give to our temple, home, sacred place? Tlen tikwa, what we eat. Tlen tiknemilia, what we think. Tlen tikmachchilia, what we feel. Tlen tiklewia, what we long for. Noknitzin shinemi shipaki shimoyek nemiti ken witzilin. So honorable little sibling, be happy, live, vibrate, enjoy like the hummingbird. So these questions or these statements, right, that's on the slide, it's trying to ask us, right, what do you do to nurture, to protect, to keep your house safe, nourished, empowered, thriving, right? So some things to consider is, one of the basic things is eating. What do you nourish it with, right? What do you consume? And that can just, that can obviously span not just with nutrition and, food and water and beverage intake, right? But it's also talking about, what do you feed your soul, right? What do you feed your spirit? It can kind of go in kind of in that context as well of do you bring knowledge? Do you teach it? Do you guide it, right? Do you stumble upon new information and kind of enhance, right, those connections of nourishing your brain, your spirit, what we think is important, right? What kind of thoughts are we focusing on, right? Are we honing in on the negativity? Are we honing in on just all the negative aspects, or are we actually looking at the optimistic or the more positive side? Once again, like, are we are we giving it knowledge? Are we giving it wisdom? How we feel, right? Or what we feel. We choose, we get to decide what emotions we enable, right? What emotions we focus on, and then what we don't, right? So we have a choice of, do we easily get bothered and angry and frustrated and, have these negative emotions arise all the time? Or do we kind of assess situations, calm ourselves, and kind of reflect on where we address or where we place some of this energy towards, right? We don't have to act on every emotion. That's actually one of the biggest teachings, is we're in control of how we react. And we will stumble upon a lot of individuals that want to tear us down, want to rile up a reaction from us. And it's our choice, right? Our decision if we go through with it, if we follow through, if we actually invest that energy into that reaction, or do we apply it to a better, more, productive method, right? Those are all things that we can reflect and analyze and kind of work on. And then, like, what we long for, right? What goals we have for ourselves, what are we trying to achieve? What are we looking forward to? Because there's more to life, right, than just this routine that a lot of us kind of focus on sometimes, right? So it's just doing a lot of self-reflection, a lot of analyzing of what are we doing with our time, with our energy. How can we apply it so that it can actually go towards following through and achieving those goals, right? And so the hummingbird is a really good representation of this, because the hummingbird, not only does it have very vibrant and bright colors, right? It's very, beautiful. It's very pleasing, right, to the eyes, but it's also a it plays a really big role in what is it? Like nourishing other things. Like, it goes to, other plants, and it like fertilizes, or, does its role in trying to for that thriving of the plants, right, and things of that sort. So we too can do the same thing, right? It just depends on how we focus in on our thoughts, our words, our actions, and what that manifests into. So, Brother Atlani, please give us some insights.
So how and what do we give to our temple, to our Teokalli? Teokalli, the house of energy. Anytime you guys hear that word Teokalli, that's basically what our ancestors referred to. Pyramids, Teokallis, the house of energy. And that's basically what our body is our temple, right? Is our home. Is the home to our spirit, to our consciousness. The beauty about the hummingbird, the Huitzilin, Ken Huitzilin, is a hummingbird doesn't need anything but flowers or things that are extremely healthy. What do we eat? I mean, that is one of the big teachings from the hummingbird, right? The hummingbird is a really special bird and animal because it teaches a lot to humans. It teaches us. I mean, the hummingbird can fly in any position. It can do it sideways, backwards, to any way, in any possible way, it can fly. It can also control its heart. It can hibernate a wheel. That's the reason why our ancestors, the elders, believe that the hummingbird has this connection with the Mictlampa, right? With the underworld. That's where this story of the hummingbird being a messenger of our death comes from. Um, Another thing that we have to take care of is our mind, right? What do we think? What is part of our body is our mind, right? And we got to be able to control our mind. If we allow our mind to take control, it will wreak havoc, right? It will basically take us to dark places. It will start gossiping about other people. It will start doing a lot of different things. We should try to avoid as much as we can. We should try to control them as much as we can. What do we feel, right? How do we feel about certain things? And that goes back to the mind, right? If we're feeling in a particular way, it does have effect in our body, right? Our ancestors believe the things that we bottle up turn into illnesses, right? Uh, so what we feel is also something that we have to be able to control because it affects our body in multiple different ways. Anytime you get extremely upset, extremely angry, if you pay attention to your body, it is having a chemical reaction to that. Same thing happens when you're smiling, right? You're going to have a positive reaction to that as well. Uh, what we hope for, like what is the hope that we have, uh, as far as what might happen to other people, our thoughts, as far as what we wish that can happen to us or um, others in multiple different ways, right? We got to also be extremely aware of that. And I think these are things that are extremely important for our body, right? We got to understand that our body is our house, and that we got to basically keep it as clean as we can. Like one of the readings mentioned, right? Uh, our body is our house, and we got to make sure that our house is tidy all the time. That's basically the representation of it, of the hummingbird. Having that beauty and being able to keep your ego in control, because although the hummingbird is extremely beautiful, it doesn't go around singing and showing off how beautiful it is. Everybody already knows how beautiful it is. All you have to do is just look at it, right? So keeping our ego in check is also part of making sure that our Kalli is doing well. No needs in Nemo, is he back?
I am back. It just feels weird not having Pilar. I'm just gonna say that out loud. But um, uh, one thing that I wanted to add about the hummingbird is the fact that this little itty bitty beautiful flying bird mammal, right, is very meticulous. It's meticulous because they must know how much to consume in order to balance out the energy that it expends, right? What does that mean? Well, it knows how much to eat so that it can continue flying the next day, right? If a hummingbird does not consume enough food for the day that it spends flying, then it ceases to live. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, that means, in essence, it's already been said, right? Be careful what you eat, but make sure you're eating enough for that day, right? We understand that underconsumption and overconsumption are the leading causes of death in human beings, whether you're undernutrition or you are overnutrition. And so overnutritioning gives us diseases, undernutritioning gives us diseases. Knowing that balance, that individual, what's it called, meal plan, if you want to call it, helps us sustain a healthy lifestyle and gives us that longer lasting life, right? It's not just about what you eat, it's also about the energy that is expended. And those are the teachings that we get out of the hummingbird. And the hummingbird exists to exist, right? It doesn't care about the bees, it doesn't care about the wasps. If you've seen uh, slow motion videos of the hummingbird when it's extracting the nectar from plants, where hummingbees or wasps may be nearby, they can't climb on it to sting it. It moves too quick. It's the only bird that essentially can fly in the opposite direction or fly to the left as well, in the opposite direction, right? Because I'm trying to make the point here that the eagle, in order for it to fly high and soar up high, it can only go in a diagonal pattern that's facing forward. And when it's high, it can only face forward, but the hummingbird can retreat backwards, right? And it flies in the opposite direction. And so it's the only bird that is capable of doing that. And with this level of agility that this bird has, it allows us to understand us. This is the story, right? It allows us to understand us. We also have the ability to move in the opposite direction. What does that mean? The biggest case that I can give is living in the capitalistic system, in this Western ideology. We have the ability to go against that current, to fly in the opposite direction and live as we must. It may not be uh, in the best interest of capitalism, but it is in the best interest of you. Okay, so that's the important thing to take from this, is the fact that um, the lessons that we are taught just by sitting and observing is just that. And I don't know if you all covered this already, but more redundancy, because
No, you brought up a different a point, which was very important. But yes. All right, Brother Atlani, would you like to take on this slide for the regent?
Yeah, of course. Tepeyolot or Tepeyolotli. Tepeyolotli can be translated as path of the mountain. Well, Tepeyolot would be the heart of the mountain. It is, in any case, the essence of the mountains, and is represented as a jaguar, which can appear emerging or sheltering in a cave. It is related to earthquakes, but also at another level with deep introspection. The conscience has to go like a jaguar through the night of the mind, hunting its prey, thoughts and emotions. As an abstract symbol, it can indicate the mountain, the hill, the non-civilized place. the dangerous place where one goes hunting or looking for a spiritual vision. It can also be found as a metaphor that indicates the balance that we must seek within, and how what we carry inside must be worked on so that it does not devour us like a jaguar. They caught us unaware in a cave. This regent rules the eighth numeral of the nocturnal sequence and the 20s of Teotleco and Tepehuilli. The image that we're seeing there comes from the Borgia Codex, and it's essentially explaining to us quite a few different things. Would you like to uh, give us a little brief explanation? I'll go ahead and go back to it again after you guys know it.
So on the top of the image, right, technically we read this from the bottom right, then we go left and we go up. So on the top of the image, you see a human in red, right? And then below that human in red is Kalli. And then to the right of that is that jaguar, the ocelot that we are talking about, right? It's in this appearance, it is emerging. It is breathing that air of purity, and on the spine you will notice tekpat, right? Tekpat not just being the physical flint knife tool that you use to dissect and inspect, right? It is also the tool that is used to sever and separate that which is no longer needed. And so ocelot in this case is the grandiose that you see when you look at a mountain. If you live near mountains, you understand what I'm talking about. If you stand at the base of the mountain and look up, it's just monstrous, right? And so there is much essence when it comes through to just going through that path of reaching the peak of these mountains. And so there's much learning that comes with it too. There's that sense of even on the path of hiking these mountains, they are treacherous, right? You must be careful where you tread, because like in the case here in El Paso, there may be rattlesnakes, there may be mountain lions, there may be creatures or animals that bring harm to the physical body. And so in that same sense, you must navigate and tread carefully when you travel to Mictlampa, because although it is the realm of dreams, it can be a very dangerous place. The reason being is because there's spirits, or not spirits, but energies, right, that want to or get attracted to the light that you bring. And so same thing with Kalli, and you see Kalli on the left side, the house with Tekpat on top of it, right? It is essentially the severing of unwanted trash, if you want to call it, right? You want to separate the trash, keep the house clean, and dissect it, right? You want to dissect the house, and what is it truly that I need, and what is it that I can give? Because it's not always about what can I get, it's about I have these items, I can just give these away. You don't necessarily have to sell and make money off of it, right? And what does all this mean? Well, it's that introspective of life, that cyclical nature of life. And the greatest example that I love is the picture above, right? Is the human, the red human being, and in this case it would be a male because of the outfit that they are wearing. They are eating nutrient. They are eating the essence that keeps life and gives life, right? Because if we don't eat, we perish. And that yellow stuff that comes out of the rear, that kind of, forms that kind of meanders into this bulb shape, is the excrement, right? And it's that cyclical life, or that cyclical understanding of life, because what we consume and what we expel can also bring life. So what you consume brings life, and your excrement can be used as fertilizer to bring life. And that's essentially what that bulb is trying to indicate.
And the reason that there's a rabbit, right, kind of attached to the excrement, the rabbit is a good symbol representation of fertilization, right? They are great repopulators. They reproduce very frequently. And so that's why they also show the rabbit there, is to kind of show that, to help solidify that cyclical nature of, what is it, of life and, I don't know, life and waste, but how everything kind of turns around in a cyclical nature to, what is one individual's excrement is another fertilizer.
It's life for
Yeah, life for, you know.
So taking essence, when you put a body in the ground and that body decomposes, what happens, right? Well, we understand that the air is nitrogen for the plants. The carbon that gets from the decomposing body becomes breathable air for plants, right? So essentially, you returning to the earth is giving back nutrients to that earth. And I don't know if you've seen, but modern day, we put humans in a bus, which prevents them from decomposing and giving back life to Mother Earth, and separating and causing a sever between the balance of human and nature. And so, Brother Tlani.
Tlasokomati, on this image, we also see that the individual there is completely red. And that has a lot of meaning. It basically means that that person is empowered, is in a state of consciousness elevated, right? So that's one of the things that we're gonna start seeing more and more. And when we see that, it basically means that the color red explains that to us. One of the things also to understand is that our elders didn't see excrement the way that we do, right? They understood that it was a cycle also, and that it served as fertilization for other plants. The chinampas in Xochimilco were the perfect example, right? On how they essentially use people. There was a team of people that their entire job was essentially to take care of excrement, human excrement, for the purpose of reducing it as fertilizer for plants and be able to keep the cycle of life going. It was in the same type of concept that we have towards it now. So that's one of the things that we have to understand also, that everything is cyclical in life. Um, this is also talking to us about how we have to confront our fears. Because if we don't confront them, essentially, they will devour us like a jaguar would, right? We got to be able to face those fears that we have, those insecurities about, whether we feel that we're not pretty enough, whether we feel that we're not smart enough, or you name it, right? We got to basically confront them, and not only, confront them, but control them. They don't represent who we are, and that's one of the things that we have to do, because otherwise they will take over our lives, and we can simply cannot allow that to happen, right? The mountain also symbolizes a lot of different things. The mountain is a place where there's a lot of different entities that live there, right? It has a lot of energy. It creates a lot of life. It holds a lot of life. Most of the time, it's going to have some sort of water related to it. In this image, we also see that the individual is basically on water, standing in water. So it basically is going to be one of those energies that we will start to see also The mountain holds a lot of energy. If anybody can walk to the mountain, ask permission anytime you go to the mountain, to the beings that are there. Try to walk barefoot in a mountain, and you will basically notice the energies of the mountain. It's happened to me quite a few times. It's an amazing feeling, but you gotta also understand that you gotta ask permission. The mountains do have a lot of energies within them, especially caves. Caves are places where some of the exercises that we eventually do in the first circle uh, uh, would be ideal to do exercises. So yeah, that's what I would add to this.
Then we get into the third exercise, and it's the exercises with Kalli.
All right. So the first one, right? We wipe your sweat with a leaf from a tree or cotton. Transmute what no longer serves you. You tell the Bayolotli, thank you. These bad thoughts, these bad emotions, this bad diet, I give to you, and I bury it in the earth of the mountain. So this is the first exercise, right? There's just so much teaching behind it. But yes, what you're doing is you're offering back to the universe that which you don't want to hold on to anymore, right? Like it says here, bad thoughts, bad emotions, bad habits, just anything that you just want to let go, right? It's literally symbolizing that. And you wipe, right? You wipe across your forehead, and you give it this intention, right? So you say what you want to offer, right, to Tepeyolotli, and then you return it back into earth. So, right, you bury it back into the dirt or the ground.
I just want to interject. Just make sure that we understand which leaves we can use, because there are
Oh my God.
leaves that can cause irritations or, discomfort to the
Again, be
skin.
mindful of the plants you use. Yes, thank you, appreciate it.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's just the Osamatli there. So yes, be mindful what plants you're using. But it's a great example of a way to symbolically, but also act upon what you want to disconnect, right? What you want to let go. So that's one exercise you can do. Another is to spit to the sky. All right. And so it doesn't say it here, right? But ideally you want to spit upwards, right? And you want to turn to face each of the directions, right? And so you do that 4 times because you're turning each.
Where do you start?
You know that part. I don't. I
So
honestly
we start facing north, and we're not talking about cardinal north. We're talking about north where
West.
the sun rises, right?
Oh, so that's east. Gotcha. Yes.
So where the sun rises, that's going to be north. And then when you turn, you always turn left. So you'll turn left and you'll face cardinal north, right? So first you'll start west where the sun rises and east where it sets, right? So
So
west,
not to confuse yourself, just start
north.
where the sun rises,
Yeah.
and then go left.
Yes, in the
So
4 directions.
let me finish. You're interrupting my slide. Anyways, so yes, and so you want to spit upwards in each of these directions, and what that's teaching you is what you release, right, will come back. And not all the time will you get every single, saliva to come back to you, right? Some of it does dissipate into, to your surroundings. But the moral of the lesson is to teach you that be mindful, be aware of what you're releasing out, whether that be your words, your actions, but that will come back. So if you're giving out good medicine, right, good vibrations, then you will get, it will return, right? But same thing goes for negativity. If you are throwing out trash with your words and actions, we'll expect that same to, come back. And so that's why it says here, you know, will you give flowers or will you give trash, right? And that decision is ultimately up to you. You have full control of whether or not, you know, you give flowers or whether you give trash. And then the third exercise that you can do, right, is be aware and mindful of how we are feeding ourselves mentally and physically, right? So by being here in this space right now, you are feeding your brain, right? You're giving it that nourishment, that fruitfulness that comes from attaining some of this information. Don't forget to feed your brain. Be mindful of what you're giving it, right? That can go as far as what books you're reading, what information you're obtaining, the different sources of, you know, leisure activities or media that we like to consume. All of that kind of plays a role in what we give to our brain. So we can choose to give it, you know, nourishment, or the same goes. You can give it trash and it not grow and prosper or thrive the way that you kind of want to. And then obviously we need to also nourish our bodies physically, right? Give it good food intake, be aware of what our body is asking of us, right? We all kind of vary with our diets, and we know ourselves best, right? And we need to kind of grow in those connections of knowing what to feed it. So those are the exercises.
Brother Tlani.
So I want to touch on the exercises a little bit. So speeding into the sky, this exercise, the first time that I heard it, it kind of made me question it, right? Because in the Western way of thinking, these type of concepts are extremely foreign to us. We don't really think of speeding into the sky and having a fall in our face as, you know, something that any sane person would do. But it works. It has an extremely philosophical message behind it. And doing the exercise itself actually transmits the message way deeper. Our elders didn't think of spit or saliva as something negative like we do. They thought of it as something sacred, right? Something that would protect you, something that came from your mouth. They help you in a lot of different ways. So it had a different concept, and I think that it kind of helps being aware. All of us, or at least myself, I have done this exercise, and I can understand how it can sound extremely foreign, but try it. I mean, you don't lose really much by trying it, and the consequences of trying it and it working for you are amazing. So I would basically suggest that you hopefully get rid of that Western way of thinking in attempting to do some of these exercises because it can get in the way. When it comes to wiping your sweat with a leaf from a tree or cotton, and essentially burying it and asking for Mother Earth to take in the mountain to take it from you. Do as much as you can. Do everything that you can. These exercises work, and they work wonders. I do this exercise all the time. I try to do it with a yeyekat. It can also be done with the wind, right? Anytime I feel a little bit of wind, if I'm connecting with it, if I'm not feeling great in a particular way, I ask Father Wind to take those emotions with it. I ask Mother Earth to basically take all of those traumas by burying them. So these are exercises that we don't lose much by trying them, other than some time. So yeah, I would definitely invite you guys to do these exercises. No, it's in Nemo.
Tekpat wants to say something.
Sorry, I got excited. I actually wanted to share with the group the spitting upward. That was actually one of the first exercises that Nemo and myself came across and was advised to do, and I really enjoy the exercise. It's, I don't know, I like to do it especially when I need to release a lot of unwanted energy, or just frustration, or when I'm heightened in my emotions. It's a really good I don't know, for me it's a really good exercise to kind of apply, because it makes me mindful of what I'm releasing out, right? So as tempted as I may be to react, right, in certain situations, it kind of reminds me of to be aware of those consequences of, okay, if I were to react, or if I were to speak in not such a great example or modality, then that will come back, right? And also real quick, like Brother Atlani said, right, we must get out of that westernized concept of our saliva being icky, or demoting its value. It's actually a very sacred part of us. It's very important. Actually, it can be used to protect yourself from just things in general. So yeah, it's very important. I agree with Brother Atlani of getting outside that concept of it's icky, or I don't want spit on my on me, right? It actually really, I don't know if it sounds weird, but it actually feels really nice to get kind of your spit back, and to kind of feel the realness of what you literally just released into the world. So
Moving on to the next one.
no, share your experience with the exercise.
I mean, I haven't done this one yet, which
Well,
I
you did
do.
the spitting.
Yes, which I do want to do with the mountain. The thing is, so I have one of my favorite places to go is called McElligott Canyon here in El Paso, and I've shared pictures in the WhatsApp. Actually, no, never mind. I've shared pictures in the WhatsApp where Temachtilistli is, and I'll share them in our group as well. But the images that you see, the path that you must take from the beginning to the end is about a 5 minute drive, 5 to 7 minute drive. Excuse me, 5 to 7 minute drive. And when you get to the base of the entrance of the hiking path, um, you, I mean, there's just so much to perceive, right? Because it's a desert environment. The places where they have tables to kind of have a picnic or a cookout if you want to. They all have landscape, and the landscape is just natural, okay? And the insects are natural, the bugs are natural, everything is just natural. There's nothing there to prevent nature from existing. When you get to the base of the entrance of this mountain, it you can see the path, and you can see some of the goals that you're trying to attain. There's small little caves, they're not so deep, but they are there, that have been touched by human hands, and there's graffiti on them. But the fact is that I've never gone there to ask for permission. I've always gone there to just connect, right? I've never been there to grab a leaf and release my tensions. I have taken, there's another part of that mountain on the opposite end. It's called, what was it called? Trans Mountain?
It's like the Franklin Mountains.
Franklin, well, it's called Trans Mountain. There's a specific path there, and it connects. It's about a 3 mile hike that connects there. Anyways, on the other end, I have taken friends and navigated through that path naturally before I even had any connection or understanding of this exercise. And I've taken friends with me who were holding on to things. And so we went hiking together. We went, deep enough as far as we could. At that time, I ran out of oxygen. So that's as far as we could have traveled. But we went to the top of a boulder, and I had them yell, and I had them release like whatever they were holding on to. And so this is essentially that, except that It's more of, I'm not trying to be loud and vocal about it. I'm trying to communicate with the mountain and with Mother Earth. And so this is one that I'm really, really like uh, intrigued on attempting and trying out, because this is essentially me being able to now go to my favorite spot and do it the right way. And when I get to a certain point in my hike, I will be able to ask for the permission that is needed. When it comes to the spitting exercise, at first I did it. I thought I knew what I was the teachings that were coming from that, but it took me uh, several months after learning of this exercise, the true purpose, the true meaning, right? It was through Brother Atlani, as a matter of fact, who had shared with me through our very first phone call conversation about the understanding of this teaching, and understanding that everything that comes out of your mouth, even the words, we must be careful because it comes back. And he made the statement that you remind me of me when I was younger, that I would just verbalize everything and put it out there, not understanding that that shit's gonna come back to you, and eventually it does. And trust me, I've been in. I'm a very vocal person. If you look at my Facebook page and you go through my previous post, you will understand what I'm talking about. I would just throw it all out there, right? And so I was not careful with the medicine that I was putting out there. As a matter of fact, I didn't give a damn. I just shared because I wanted to share. And
Still a work in progress is reactivity.
yes, and no, I'm not gonna, try and say that's not true, Dekbot, and I'm not gonna say that no, I don't need work. As on the contrary, I do admit that there's still a lot of work. There's still a lot of transmutation that needs to follow, but um, I've I've not gone and done this exercise to offer up these um, bad habits, or not even bad habits, just bad tendencies that I have, and um, just to let go of them. So there's plenty of work that needs to be done. But thanks to Brother Atlani, I was able to understand the true purpose of this exercise, because even in the class that we have with Temachtilli Yankuik, I would make some statements, right? Because there would be some like Niwan that would correlate the teachings of the ancestors with the teachings of the Christians. And I would put out statements that were unnecessary, right? And Temachtilli even got on my case and was like, "You must be careful with what you put out there, because it has to be good medicine." And I understand what you're trying to say, but there's better ways of giving out that information or disseminating that information. So with all kindness, and with the same kindness that he gave me, I tell you all, right? You must be careful with the medicine that you put out there, and you must make sure that medicine is not detrimental to your environment, right? Everything that surrounds you, that's what an environment is. So it must be good medicine for it to flourish and grow. Sorry, a huge tangent, but um,
Like we tell everybody, stop apologizing.
no, it's not that I'm apologizing. I'm just saying huge tangent, because like you guys all took the words that I wanted to say.
I mean, it wasn't a tangent. You were giving your experience and sharing with us, so it's greatly appreciated.
Brother Atlani.
Excellent.
No, thank you for sharing, and it's in Nemo. Thank you for sharing. I think it goes to show how a lot of these things do kind of help a person grow in some ways, right? I mean, like you stated, now you think before putting some of the energy out into the world, which is essentially making you a better person in a lot of ways, at least in the sense that you're not, getting whatever you're throwing out back, So yeah, thank you for sharing. Can we proceed with the next slide so that we can hopefully have some time for questions? You want to go ahead and knock out the next one? No need to Nemo?
Yes.
Yeah, it takes a moment on, I think. But yes, we did move on to the next slide.
Tlatewatsin, Ticualo, Nahua, Noiki, Nimati. If you suffer, if you are in pain, it will hurt me as well. And so, so to kind of, quickly go through this, you must be careful with the medicine that you're putting out there, right? We're not just talking about the verbal information that you give out or that you disseminate. We're also talking about the mental, the thoughts that you have about yourself. So if you put yourself in a dark place where depression kick in, guess what? Who else is going to be hurting? The other you, your body, your internal conscious, right? So it's not, so think about yourself as a small community, right? And what you put into that community will eventually pay back. If you give that community bad medicine, that community is going to expel you, right? And you're going to be out of balance and out of harmony. Tekpat?
We can go to the next slide.
Atlani?
Just so we can go through the.
Yeah, let's go to the next slide. I think this one kind of speaks for itself, right?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. You want to try this one, Brother Atlani?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to try? Yes, slide 17.
Tlazokamati nonatsin sitlaluikwe. I'm grateful to you, Mother, the one with the skirt of stars. Ipampa amanin nikan nimitznotza ikanochinoyolo. Shine chatloki. Shine tlayokoli motlanemilis kayo wan mochikawalis. Amo chistekahuili manesh tlapachoka ika ishpopoyolistli neguatzin nimotemaquilla nimochamtis wan nipakis nitemahuisotas wan nipla lewis. I'm grateful to you, Mother, the one with the skirt of stars, because here I speak to you with all my heart. Give me your wisdom and fortitude. Don't let me get lost in mediocrity. I commit to studying myself and being happy. I will respect and I will support. This, I don't think that the translation here does it justice here, but it's essentially a prayer, right? To Citlallicue, right? That's the mother with the skirts of stars, right? The universe. So this is essentially just that, a prayer, essentially asking for that gift of wisdom and strength. We have to also be aware that we can communicate with energies, including our ancestors. I invite everyone to ask their ancestors for guidance. Ask them to visit you in your dreams. These are things that will help us and help us a lot. We can be helped by energies around us. Tlazokamati. No anything?
Very well said. I enjoyed listening to the Nawat. So yes, it's the starry sky, right? Usually the nighttime sky, that is what we're referring to, right, by the skirt of stars. But the reason we have like some of these plegarias, these prayers, to give to some of the sacred energies, right, are because it's furthering it's reinforcing that connection, right, that we need to establish with all that is around us, right? So to get comfortable with starting to speak to the multitude of entities around the universe, right? So the sky, we'll get to the next slide about the sun, the wind, water, just getting comfortable with talking to them, right? And speaking to them, connecting to them, right, on a different in a different way, asking for help, right? Because we're not in it alone. And I think these prayers help remind us that we can ask, right? We can ask for help as long as we, commit ourselves to attaining that knowledge and that information and putting the work in, right? We can connect. We can further establish those connections with pretty much all that is surrounding us in this universe. We're not alone, right? So it's just best to get comfortable with speaking, right? Speaking to them, because they appreciate, right, those connections that you build with them, the relationship that you build. That's all I really wanted to add about the plegaria, about the prayer.
You want to do the
Tonatiuhtsin.
next one, Nemo? For Tonatiuhtsin?
Of course. Tonatiuhtsin. Noweyitatsin. Tonatiuhtsin tlasokamati. Nikneki niyeski ken tewatsin tlamatini. Nikin tlawilwis. Nomasewaliki niwan pan itlayo watol nemiliskayo. Nimotecmactia nikaj sikamatis motlachtol. Juan nochipa nimitzmawitzotas ika chipka pawelistli. My great and honorable Father, generator of light and heat, thank you. I want to be wise like you. I will illuminate my family members in their dark existence. I commit to understanding your language, and I will always respect your pure essence. I mean, pretty decent translation. It got pretty close to the essence, right? And so essentially so at the picture that you see, I'm not exactly sure if this is one that Pilar took herself when she was on her travels, but you see the breaching of the sun on the horizon. And in that horizon, you will see this. Let me see if I can put it. Can you all see that? Hopefully, did I mess that up?
Just go on.
And so that red line between the blue sky and the darkness is that Tonatiuhtsin, that essence, right? That Xiuhtecutli, where in essence, it's the battle between the night and dark. And we don't mean battle like the war in the Eurocentric sense, but it's the separation between the night and dark. And so the sun shines bright, and it shines for everything, not just you and I. It shines on everything, not just you and I. And so in that same essence, right, the very strong warmth that you feel when the sun rises is that heat, that light that we also must be able to generate. And we do have the ability to generate this amount of energy ourselves, right? The sun always follows a specific path, and it's been around for such a long period of time that it knows so much, right? It has so many of the elements that we ourselves are made out of. And so in that same retrospect, we want to be as wise and equivalent, not just, I'm not talking about age-wise, because humans will never be able to attain the lifespan of a star. And in times of family trivial issues, you must be the one to bring the light into that, and you must be the one to get them out of that darkness so that everyone can live within the happiness of what is called the light. And so the sun speaks a specific language, right? And to the Nawa, the language is Nahuatl. And so you commit yourself to speaking that language, right, so that you can communicate with it. And there must be that respect, that balance between giving it its due diligence and its due recognition, right, because of this level of essence, right? And it's called pure essence. And the reason why is because, you know, in the Eurocentric terms, you want to think about it kind of like God, where God gives love to all of its creatures and beings, even though, I mean, let's not get into it. But the sun gives light to everything that is on Earth, and not just on Earth. There's also other planets on this solar system that it gives light equally to, and not just the planets, but also the moons and the debris that sits within these solar systems, right? And even the meteors that come through in and out of this galaxy. And so for us to perceive and understand this prayer, plegaria, we must actually practice it. So when you go out in the morning before the sun rises, right? Um, do the spinning exercise. You'll see the breaching of the light coming out. You won't see the sun just yet, but by the time you are done with the spitting exercise, you are then to see the breaching of the sun, and this is where you can start doing this plegaria, because you are essentially talking with that sun, that energy, that new day that it's given for you, for your opportunity, right? And this is your opportunity to take to start incorporating the actual exercises that the ancestors were trying to teach us, and you will learn a lot from doing this. For me, it's understanding that I have been giving the time and essence to physically exist on this plane and see and feel the sun, or Tonatiutzin, right? The honorable sun. And so just like it shines light on everything on this plane, it also shines light on all the negative aspects of me. And so there's a lot of growth that I've done, not just from my youth, but also from my adult age, where I did bad things and I did um, not so great actions, right? To a point where now I can recognize that, and I've asked to, you know, essentially get rid of that, not in the manner that we were taught, but essentially having a conversation with the sun and with the mountain. And so that's one of the reasons why I will go to the mountain, right? And sometimes I go in the morning, or sometimes I stay overnight. There's a fee that you got to pay, but regardless, sometimes I stay overnight so I can see that sun breaching the horizon. And when the sun sets on those mountains, it's just a sight to see. And I'll share the picture so you can hopefully get a glimpse of what I'm talking about. But
if there's any words left, I'm just kidding. The reason it's important, right, that we acknowledge and we respect our honorable father Tonatiuh, right? The sun, well, not the sun, but just like the generator of light and heat, right? Which the reason that they're important in our culture, in our teachings, is because they're a exemplary model, right, to emulate or to try to strive towards, right? Those when it says there that I want to be wise like you, right? It has a more profound meaning than just I want to be like you, right? I want to be knowledgeable and wise. It also kind of speaks on it shines light every single day, right? It comes out, and that's something that we must be appreciative of, right? Because you never know, there might be that one day that doesn't come, and I mean, things bad, like unnatural things will manifest, right? Because we rely on that heat, on that light, on that energy to create life right, for us to thrive on. But I think it's important to acknowledge, right, the powerful energy that Tonatiuh is because they don't pick and choose what day they want to come out, and I don't feel like it, so they just never appear, right? And so it's something to kind of model after. Of we may feel those feelings or those thoughts or emotions, right, on a certain day. We might not feel like rising to our full potential. We might not feel the best or whatever the case may be, right? But it's important to kind of learn, right, from the sun, from Tonatiuh, that those are the moments that we should be working even harder, right, to supersede, to make our presence, to spread our light and our good medicine to others, right? And just like the sun doesn't choose what it shines its light on, we must also kind of follow in that path of removing the ego, removing some of those things that kind of um, affect or like influence who we choose to help, who we choose to shine our bright light on, right? It should be within, us maintaining our harmony and our well-being, right? We should be spreading that love. We should be spreading that help and that light to others, especially those that might be in a very dark place, right? So just some things to add. Not many words were left to be used. But Brother Atlani?
I think you hit it right on the spot there, right on the nail. No need sin. The sun, I mean, the sun is considered life. Our elders looked at the sun as an entity, a being that we can learn a lot from. It's never tired. It doesn't really care about what you said or how you feel. It's gonna give you light. Um, Represents fire in a lot of different ways also. It is basically one of the things that keeps us alive. It can also be harsh. So it's, I mean, I don't think that there's enough words to describe the sun and the true meaning that it has on our lives. I think that a lot of times we don't pay attention and we go through life not realizing that these things have such a tremendous effect in our day-to-day life, right? If the sun was to stop moving, or if he went away, if he decided to move, that would end life as we know it. So yeah, um, let's go ahead and open up for questions if anybody has any.
I think we did such an amazing job that everybody's just in awe with the information.
Or everybody fell asleep, one of the two.
I-
It's kind of late already.
We understand that it is a multitude of information that was thrown in your direction, Nokni One. So please don't shy away from asking questions, or if there's just things you want to have some more clarification or elaboration on. This is the time, this is a space. And don't worry, we will be, sharing the slides with you guys. So don't stress if if you're unsure how you're gonna keep all this information, right? But yeah, just give us your feedback of what you thought about the lesson, the information.
Buenas noches. How's it going? Vale, igual.
Buenas noches, good night.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. Thank you for sharing. I'm just overwhelmed. It's a lot of information to process because, man, it's deep. La información, la sabiduría, it's a lot. It's like a whole lifetime. And maybe you need other lifetimes to learn, to unlearn, and to colonize. And there's another one too. Like, there's a video too that the elders speak, what I'm saying, y grabaron la sabiduría de los ancestros Anawaka, Anawakas, right? And basing off the wisdom that Seakato Pizza and Quetzalcoatl was sharing, and it's like, it's a lot, it's a lot, and there's stuff that, it takes time to work and build and to apply, you know what I mean? And a lot of what's resonating with my brother Nemo, it's like, yeah, we have to, well, we have to be warriors, what I'm saying? Los ancestros eran guerreros, but I totally feel them, what I'm saying? Like when it comes to that, it's like we want to speak our truth, and we're not, como te digo, como dices, like I think at times there's like a thin line, if I don't know if anybody can relate to when we have to speak our truth, what I'm saying? We're trying to share some wisdom, we're trying to share some light, we're trying to share some knowledge. And yeah, there is things that it's a little bit, at times it's hard to talk about these things without we're not like trained to intentionally harm the feelings of others, because well, you guys were talking about it, but it's like there's times where we have to speak some truth on some things, you know what I mean? And it does I think it does require a lot of like self-discipline, because we're not trying to put people on blast, what I'm saying? We're just observing, what I'm saying? I think of things that's going on, and things, and as we learn, we're starting to, when we're growing, it's like, oh, okay, it's okay, it's all right. But as we start learning, sometimes it could be a little bit, I guess the word would be like, or a way to put it, it could be a little bit overwhelming for some people, because not everybody's on that path, what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, I mean, everyone, I can't speak for everyone else, but I can speak on myself, what I'm saying? As I'm learning, as I'm trying to learn the way and trying to be better, be a better man, be a better person. And what I'm saying? It's not like all these things, some things were taught to us, but not everything, what I'm saying? And some things were, there was always things that were left like, educated, like they weren't being educated, they weren't shared enough light on, and then you grow up and, trial and error, you make mistakes, and you know what I mean? So, but anyway, like it's profound, what I'm saying? It's very profound. I think all of it's profound, you know what I mean? The wisdom of all of it, the Fortes Catipocas, the 20-day signs, like it's really is interesting. It's fascinating. I think I'm a little burnt out from yesterday, but yeah, I've been trying to help other people, and and help family out, and I think I just kind of exerted myself too, So anyway, I'm gonna shut up, pero muchísimas gracias. Thank you for having me, and if I'm blabbing, you know what I mean, I disculpa, pero es un gusto de estar aquí, and I have to get going, unfortunately, pero se agradece mucho que su tiempo, and everybody por compartir, Kalli Wali, many blessings, abrazos para todos.
Tlazokamati, Miek. I agree. I mean, what you said is right on point. It requires a lot of self-discipline. This is basically reclaiming the culture, reclaiming the knowledge, and it is a lot of knowledge. And unfortunately, at least in my case, I feel that I started learning this a little bit later in life. I wish I would have known it since I was a kid. But it's never too late, and the information is vast. I think so far we've only done 3 classes. I think that we're doing anywhere between 3 to 5 classes a week with the Temachtilistli that are basically touching on different subjects each and every class, but all of them are basically intertwined together to paint the picture of what the elders thought of as life. So yeah, I agree. Tlazokamati, Miek. Anybody else? Can they have some questions?
I just wanted to add real quick, Tlazokamati, I always enjoy your share. You always bring such great energy into the space. So appreciate you coming up and, you know, speaking. And just keep in mind, this goes for everybody, right? Just to kind of ease people's mind. This isn't like a, well, it depends, right? Everybody goes through their journey of learning all this in their own way. But I just wanted to bring a little bit of ease, hopefully, to the minds. This isn't the only time you're going to come across this information, right? It's not like once we're done here, like we're never going to speak about any of this ever again,
Exactly.
right? So we understand it is a lot of information, right? Especially to get in just this amount of time. But just take it, you know, ease into it, right? Take it at your own pace. That's why we definitely encourage, like during the week or on the weekend or whenever you have time, right? Reach out on the WhatsApp. Say like, hey, you know, this part confused me. This part, I would like a little bit more information, or I just want to have a conversation about this, right? That is very welcomed. And it's not only helpful for the person that's asking or engaging, right? But it's helpful for anybody else that participates or that sees that information, right? Everybody brings a very distinctive viewpoint, and that's all helping each other out, right? Because we don't all see the same thing in the same fashion. So those things are very helpful, and we really do encourage that whenever you have the time and the availability, right? Don't be afraid. Ask a question, or just, you know, ask for clarification. So just wanted to kind of remind everybody that this isn't the only time we're going to come across like this information. It's also going to be, you know, our teachings are cyclical, right? It comes back around. We may be talking about a different topic, but some of the stuff will be revisited. So just for those that feel overwhelmed at the moment.
And not just that, I mean, we made a commitment to disseminate the information. And so this is going to be cyclical as well, because there might be a new generation or a new class that will want to learn this information. So we'll need to restart from Cipatli and give the lessons. And so, yes, we do have the recordings, we do have YouTube, but it also falls onto us to, from what we've learned, how can we make improvements to that and then share that, and you'll be part of it, right? And so just take it step by step. It's small steps that you take to digest and let that information sit and you know, be able to understand all of it, and not just understand it, but also you know, gather all of it. When Brother Tlani invited Tekpatl and I to the Temachtilistli class, he was right in smack in the middle of it. So this material is just as new and just as raw to us as it is to you all. And so Brother Tlani is the one that has the most experience. I think it's his 15th time taking this class. I'm just kidding, brother. I'm just kidding. But
Feels like that at times. Is the second, this will be the third go around for me. But the interesting part is the exercises. You can do the classes, but in that, I mean, that will give you a lot of information. And eventually we're going to start touching on even more information. That is also going to be really interesting. But at the end of the day, is putting into practice a lot of these different teachings and exercises, because that's essentially how you're going to be able to apply in a day-to-day basis all of these different teachings in a way that is actually going to make your life much better in many different aspects. So yeah.
That's interesting, if I may.
Please, Father Cholo, go ahead, 19.
Yeah, that's interesting because it really did. You guys did offer food for thought today with the information that was put out. I really love how you guys articulated the concept of death through the eyes and the lens of our culture. Yeah, it's definitely transformation, rebirth, cyclical, right? As well as I wanted to comment on what you were mentioning now about being able to do that to ourselves, where you spit in the air and allow it to come back, it's a very humbling, seems like a very humbling teaching that and medicine that offers back. I would have to get myself in the right headspace prior to that, because you really are shedding a lot of the ego by doing that. It blows my mind also that north is the east in the way that the sun rises. I would like to look into that more as well. And I love how you said that in the Western society, we usually see our excrement as, something that's not good. And what's interesting is when you're offering sacrificial prayer through animals, if they happen to use the restroom while you're doing that, it's actually a blessing if that goes on you, not on your foot or on your hand or something while you're doing it or whatnot. It's actually looked at as ashe, or as blessings, or even money, right, coming to you when that happens. And so it's interesting that you mentioned that, Atlani. I wanted to draw a parallel to that, is how it's viewed also as something that is good or as a blessing. Also, another parallel I wanted to draw, I heard of something called dream weaving. Dream weaving, where you're weaving your dreams. It was from an indigenous group that I happened to come across. It was at a library, and they were talking about how they would in caves draw the last scene, right, of their dream when they wake up. It's similar to what you're saying about journaling, except they would draw it, I believe, the last scene. And then, so that way when they go back to sleep, they would envision that as a filter, or like as a respawn point to go back and pick up where they left off, to kind of weave, so to speak, their dreams together, which is very parallel towards journaling. And I wanted to mention that our dreams are never literal. They're always symbolic, because who's awake when our conscious is asleep is our subconscious, right? And so all symbology, you're never going to get nothing literal. If you have a dream that your teeth are going to fall out, I promise you, your teeth are not going to fall out. That's something more symbolic behind that energy. And I know it may be difficult to journal the dream, to write it down. As soon as you wake up, have that piece of paper there and just start writing buzzwords down. Blue, it was cold, raining. It don't need to make sense. You just don't want to forget it. Because the thing about dreams is the longer you try to remember, the faster they slip from our memory. We can't get them back, right? And so you have to write down even just buzzwords here and there. Boom, 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 boom. So that way, when you are awake, you can connect those dots and then fill in the blanks. Okay, this is that, this is that. And it would probably help to write the tonali down of the day that you had that dream, so you can associate different influences or the fluctuations of these tonalis and how they how they interpret, or better, help us to understand our dreams through their cycles. I'll mute up right
there. Yes. So you're starting to see the connections and the ties, right? And then you're starting to also learn and deep dive on the essentials, the fundamentals, the data information that was not given to us and was perceived as something different, right? And so there's also a question in the comment. I think Tech Patla already answered it, but the question goes, with some practices, do you just meditate on the phrases? Do you journal, or can it be whatever feels most natural to us? For the initial, right, you want to keep your focus and your attention exactly to that. You don't want to deviate. You can journal after the experience and what the sensation was and what you feel, but you want to be in that moment, in the Ashkan Wanika, in the here and now, right? You want to be in that existence. You don't want to be of like split focus and split attention, because then you lose, in essence, the actual teachings that the energies are trying to give you. And so maybe you've already gotten to a point where you can do both, And if you can, yes, but the initial recommendation is to exist in Ashkan Wanika, in the here and now.
And that's why we also, during these lessons, right, especially with the 20 energies that we're going to cover, we do our best, right? We tried to provide a slide that provides kind of instructions or guiding points on how to go about certain exercises, right? Because for each of these energies, when you want to work with them, you do different things, right? With Sipakli, some of them where you look at yourself, your reflection in the mirror for 5 minutes, make eye contact, things of that nature. You observe yourself without judgment. And then, with the Yeyekat, there's different things you can do, right? There's that connecting with your other self, naming your other self, like there's a multitude of things, right? And so we try our best to kind of give you a starting point, right? It will expand. The knowledge that you attain will grow as you go along. And the reason we provide also like the plegarios or the prayers is because it's a way for you to start vocalizing and connecting with these energies. Eventually, especially if you have a very creative aspect or side of you, which we all do. And that's actually one of the things we all develop is that artistic side. We all have it. We just have to apply it and practice it. But we will get to a point where you can start to create your own prayers, right? Your own speeches or flowery word to some of these energies. It's what speaks to you. You will get to that point, right? But in the beginning, that's why we give you kind of a little bit of a foundation of where to start, right? Like, for example, today, some of them were wiping your sweat with a cotton ball or a leaf, and well, not a cotton ball, but cotton or a leaf, and then, doing away with that negative emotion and then returning it to Mother Earth or spitting up into the sky in the 4 directions. Those are some of the guiding exercises so that you can start applying, because like Brother Atlani said, this information is great, but unless you apply it, you're not going to make any growth or progress forward. It's just going to be information that you came across, and that's the, what is it? That's the end point of where that goes, right? But if you want to flourish and move forward, you do have to put some of these practices into play and start diving into it and trying it. So
Yeah, no, anything further, Cholo. I mean, you were right on point. I mean, with death, the way that is perceived by our elders is some completely different, completely a 180, essentially, from the way that we perceive or the Abrahamic religions have made perceived a lot of the modern society or the West, death, right? We're taught to be scared of it. El Templo Mayor in Mexico City, is basically the Teocalli that is right next to the cathedral, right next to the Zócalo in downtown Mexico City. Holds a lot of different skulls, right? And this gave the idea to a lot of people that the Aztecs were people that to some degree adore death, right? Or praise death or praise the devil, right? Because of a skull. Well, the actual thought behind that is that you wanted to have your ancestors at the center of the city, right? I mean, what else is more representative of honoring your ancestors than having them in your temples at the center of the city, right? Something that is really hard to understand uh, or even try to understand from a modern point of view. So there is a lot of things that we're gonna start seeing that we are basically we never were taught to understand properly the concepts of from the modern way of thinking, right? Science is not going to tell us what our elders used to think or used to believe. Our elders are telling us that directly. So that's the beauty of these classes, right? This information is coming from the elders directly, is not filtered other than by us, right? Noinitzin Nemo, Noinitzin Tecpat, myself, Noinitzin Pilar, are the ones doing the translation. And although we might be missing things here and there, we're trying to make it as closely as we can to the interpretation of it. And that's the reason why sometimes I keep on pointing out that some basic things like the Ashkan Wanikan, the here and now, are actually extremely powerful and extremely philosophical. So thank you for your comment. I appreciate it, Noinitzin. Anybody else that would like to make a comment or has a question? I know it's getting a little bit late, especially for Noinitzin of Syrian tongue, who is in a different time zone than us.
Nothing from us.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we can let everybody sit and process the information, the knowledge, right, that's been given. And yeah, I mean, the WhatsApp is always available, right? If things come up later on, right? If after sleeping or, just pondering over some of the stuff, if anything arises, feel free, right, to comment or ask questions. Definitely advise, I encourage, right, to try out these practices, right? Try out these exercises. We look forward to kind of hearing the shares next week for next lesson on if anybody tried them. Oh, okay. If anybody tried them, and what the experience was, because that's how we're going to grow. That's how we're going to gain further, knowledge and information and wisdom, right? So don't be afraid. Don't shy away from trying it out. And don't be discouraged if it doesn't, if it wasn't the best experience in the first time around, right? These things are meant to be repetitive, right? To be applied more than one time. But thank you, everybody that's been with us for a little over 3 hours. So really do appreciate the attention that was given and just your participation. And so really enjoyed this lesson with Kalli. I hope everyone gets some rest, and we'll talk tomorrow. So that's
all right. Timoitaske, Mostla, we'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope everybody has a good rest tonight.
Timoitaske Mitlampa.
Timoitaske Mitlampa. All right, everybody have a good night. We'll talk later.
Timoitaske Mitlampa.